Hey, welcome to Viking Preparedness. I'm Pastor Joe Fox. I recently watched this movie called Just in Time or In Time or something like that with Justin Timberlake, and it got me thinking. In the movie, people had these countdown clocks on their arms, and everything cost time, and they could see how much time they had to live on their arm. And the average person in the movie only had like a couple days, and it's constantly ticking down. So they had to earn time to stay alive longer. And then of course there were the what we call multi-billionaires who had millions and millions of hours of time, which meant they were basically immortal or something, whatever. But it was kind of weird to watch these people as their clock ticked down. They had to get more time uploaded onto their system, and they used that instead of money. And then I started thinking, money is time, right? For most of us. Most of us have to go out and earn our money. And to earn our money, that takes time. And so you're selling your time for a certain amount of money. And it's also tax time, right? And I pay my taxes. I work as a consultant, and I pay my taxes quarterly. And then this time of year, there's a reckoning, right? And I've got to write a check to Uncle Sugar to pay for all those people to stay home and watch their big screen TVs, and stuff like that, because somebody's got to pay for that. Um, but I think most Americans should have to pay taxes the way I do because I actually see the taxes. The people who pay me full out. They just give me money, right? And then, that's on paper. And then I have to account for that money to Uncle Sugar. And then he takes out, or worse, I take out and send to him, Social Security times two because I'm an independent contractor. Um, Unemployment tax, healthcare tax, and I'm paying between 25 and 33% somewhere in there of what I get paid goes right back out the door to Uncle Sugar. And so I don't make really at the end of the day what I think I make. And guess what? If you're getting paid, via the system, the beast system, you're not making what you think you're making either. If you think, you're making, I don't know, what's an average salary in America? I think teachers are making 30 something, and if you break that down by hours, that's about like 20 some dollars an hour. That's probably fair. If you're manual labor or low end, what's minimum wage now? $7. Well, that's not a job. So $10, $11, $15, $20, whatever. Teachers aren't making enough money. It doesn't matter. Whatever it is you're making, you think you're making, you got to take off a big chunk of that for taxes that you're paying. And so at the end of the day, you're left with X amount of money that you actually get to keep for your efforts, for your time that you spent doing something. And I think if you take that paycheck, whether you get paid weekly, every 2 weeks, every month, or however you get paid, and actually get out your calculator and start cranking down how much you get an hour after taxes, um, then start thinking in terms of time that you're spending when you buy something. If you buy a latte for, I don't even know what a latte costs today, what, $5 maybe? Some frou-frou coffee store or whatever. I'm going to get people writing comments now. I don't drink latte. I just drink regular coffee. Whatever. Just go with it here. But if you buy a Happy Meal, what's a Happy Meal now? I don't even know anymore. What's a meal at Burger King cost? $7, $8? Well, man, that's like half an hour of work maybe, or 15 minutes, or maybe an hour of work, depending on who you are, an hour of your life that you slaved away at your job that you're now paying for that thing. So you're trading your time for a burger. Um, and it gets kind of weird that way. I had somebody tell me one time, it doesn't matter how much money you make, it's how much money you spend. And there's a lot of wisdom there. You can save a lot of money by just not spending the money you make. Start thinking in terms of how much of my life is it costing me to buy this trinket? How much of my life is it costing me, to buy this cell phone that I'm filming this on, or to keep the service on and stuff. And so that's one thing. That's one thought that came out. Another thought kind of related to that I had a little while ago, and maybe you can take it and spin off of it on your own. But there was slavery in this country back in the 1800s, and then that ended, close towards 1900. But a lot of the people who were slaves ended up still being exploited, right? They went to work, for what's that song? I sold my soul to the company store. Doo doo. But people would go to work, white and black, and yellow and brown and green for all I know. But people would go to work for these big corporations, like at the railroad or at the mine or whatever, and the mine would provide their housing, let's say, and they would have the company store, and you'd get paid in scrip, not real money, and you could spend your scrip at the company store for flour and a new pair of boots or whatever, and then you'd settle up accounts when you got paid every month or 2 weeks or a week, whatever they paid you, and everybody was always behind, right? And so they owed their soul to the company store. And we look back at that and you see movies on it and stuff, and we're like, wow, that was horrible. It really hasn't changed today. It really hasn't. Back then, if you go back on the plantations, the boss man, Massa, he was up on the hill in that nice house, like, what's that house called, sweetie, in Tara? Right, Tara, the big southern mansion, and then the slaves could all see the southern mansion right up there while they were working, and they lived in barely adequate housing, and lived their life. And then when they went to the company store mode later, the boss man, the owner, he may live further away. You may not actually see him when you're at work because you had transportation then, and he could go to his workplace to inspect what was going on and go back to his nice house. Well, bring that forward to today. You still, most Americans, owe your soul to the company store in the form of credit cards. I mean, who do you think those bills are going to? You go to your slave wage job and you work 40, 50, 60 hours a week, and at the end of your paycheck, you've got like this much left. And so what do? You have a credit card. Now I'm going to get people to say, I don't have a credit card. Good for you, but whatever. It's just typical American. They have a credit card and they go out and buy stuff that's made in China that's going to fall apart and break in less than a year, and you have to go buy more, and you go, get stupid entertainment, and you do this and you do that, and at the end of the month, not only do you have nothing, you have debt that you owe. You owe more than you have. You buy a house, and you owe money that you don't have, or you go buy, stupid stuff. People who go buy shiny cars, and have a note on that. And at the end of the day, you're stuck. You're in bondage. You're in slavery, just like the other slaves were. You owe and you can't get away. And it feels crushing at times. And so, my advice to you is to recognize it. Start looking at it. Start thinking of what your time is actually worth. When you buy stuff, you're actually giving up part of your life for that stuff. And then start doing the click over with your brain and stop being a consumer and start being a producer. Think about the villages, the village, kind of the way it worked. There would be a shoemaker, and there would be a thatcher, and there would be a person who grew vegetables and a person who tended cattle or goats or whatever, and everybody would contribute to society that way. And I realize you can make an economic argument, well, this is just the same thing, it's just more sophisticated. No, because at the end of the day, the goat herd owned his goats, right? The person who was growing beets in the garden owned their beets. They didn't owe their soul to the company store. And maybe they traded a bushel of beets for a pair of shoes for their kid, but, I don't know. I don't know where I'm going to it. Start thinking about being more self-sufficient. Maybe start thinking about an agrarian lifestyle, giving up some of those things of the world that you don't need that just put you in debt and in bondage, or think about being a craftsman type person where you actually produce stuff that people want to exchange goods and services for you. Stop doing things on credit. My grandfather wouldn't buy anything if he couldn't buy it. He would bought nothing on credit. He came out of the Depression, and that's probably why. It would help you. Get out of debt. One of the biggest reasons I hear people can't come to community is because they're in debt, and they would have no way to pay it. They'd love to come to community, and this is what they say. I'd love to come to community and work in the garden all day and chop wood all day, but I can't because I owe this money. Well, that's two things. One, you probably wouldn't love to do that all day, even though you think you would. But, hey, if you want to give it a try, you got to get out of debt. Stop spending money on things you don't need to spend money on. Simplify your life. Start thinking about being a producer instead of a consumer. And I hope something in what I just rambled on about helps you. All right, I'll see you out there.